Welcome to In the Rough. Now, before we get started, I have to address some things with you. As a matter of fact, I gotta ask some questions. What do you see? Do you just see Wolfgang? Or do you see Wolfgang the Black Man? On today on In the Rough, we're going to be discussing the Now They See Us miniseries that premiered on Netflix. It goes over the trial and conviction of the Central Park 5, 15 to 16-year-old kids who were convicted of raping a white woman in Central Park, New York. Were they innocent or were they guilty? You'll find out the answers on today's episode. But regardless of whatever answer you receive on the episode today, what do you see when you see another person? Do you see a nobody or do you see a human? Do you see a beautiful story that can be told or do you see nothing? Today on In the Rough, we're going to be discussing all these things, as well as the importance of seeing a person who they actually are, hearing their stories, and making sure they are loved. So as per usual, you can see my face this time, so you can see what I'm about to say to y'all. If you don't like what's going to be said on here, I would turn the video off right now. Welcome to In the Rough. That's a good point. All right. What's up, everybody? Back here at it again with another edition of In the Rough. I'm your co-host, Wolfgang.
And I'm your co-host, Omari, wait for it, I have to pause, Smith.
And I'm your co-host, Trevon Covington. I'm not doing all the extra stuff.
Of course, as y'all remember, our other co-host, Chase, is unavailable right now because he is being a successful black man working an internship in Nashville. So, Trevon has been taking over for him in his stead. So, this is In the Rough, Musketeer Edition, you feel me?
The Musketeer Edition. You're gonna learn why we call ourselves that. You'll learn why.
Hey, we just some real individuals. I would say a different word, but we PG around here.
Let's just say we work good together. Or rather, we work good by ourselves, but we work even better together.
Ooh, I like that. Well, shoot, but I don't know if the audience knows exactly who this third musketeer is, Wolf. So, Trevon, go ahead and tell the people about yourself. Who is you? What do you do? That is terrible grammar, but you know what? That's okay. Well, who are you, Trevon Covington?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, like my co-host said here before, my name is Trevon J. Covington. I was born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. I attended Tennessee Tech back in the fall of 2015. I graduated this past December with a bachelor's in biology and a concentration in zoology. Loved animals all my life. I am a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the best fraternity in all the lands. And and as far as future plans, I will be attending Central Washington University in Ellensburg, Washington, where I'll be pursuing a master's degree in primate behavior. Long-term goal, pretty much study gorillas in their natural habitat in the wild. And yeah, that's pretty much. That's just a nutshell about me. Y'all want to know more? Hit me up. You'll follow me on Instagram at Covington Trevon, or Twitter also Covington Trevon, or Snapchat Boogie Jr. 01, etc., etc.
Man came with the promotion, well dressed. He said, "I'm ready today."
Man, with the triple shot Starbucks energy.
Right. Man, I said, I'm a professional. I'm graduated. I'm an alumni. Not student no more, at least for the time being.
He in his white girl mood right now.
Not his white girl mood. Is that actually a thing?
Hey, don't say that, bro.
Why not?
I just said it.
y'all know why.
Yeah. But thank you for being here today.
No problem.
My fellow musketeer. But let's get into it. How has everybody's week been?
Man, my week's been good.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we talk, so my week's been all right. How about y'all?
This man did not say much. I know what you're referring to, and I'm gonna do the same thing. My week was very great as well.
Y'all know, but it's been a good week. Omar, how's your week been?
So I'm actually gonna break script. I'm gonna actually give some description of how my week has been. It was straight. That's all you need to know. No, I'm just kidding. But it was actually a good week. I finally fixed a problem I was having with my rent. So, ladies and gentlemen, word of wise, keep track of your rent payments. They catch up. If y'all don't know what happened, I don't know how. I don't know why. Actually, I do know how. I do exactly know how. Back in like March, I somehow missed a whole payment for rent in April.
Nah.
I was trying something different. I was like, I'm gonna put some payments like on rent like each week. Was doing it through March, and then I paid at the end of March, and then I guess I just mistook it as me paying for April. And I didn't get a notification saying that it wasn't paid for. So I get a notification that May. It's like, hey, you ain't paid your rent. Me, what you mean? Go back and ask my roommate, like, hey, what happened to rent? Oh, you ain't paid. What are you talking about? Go through all my bank accounts. Oh, I just missed April. I don't know how. I this whole time just missed the month of April. So it's like, okay, it's gonna be easier to pay my roommate back than to pay, the apartment property back. So it's like, all right, so we're gonna do that. So that's all taken care of. I got a new bank account.
Okay, that's good.
So fix some stuff for the work. I'm working with a French guy now.
Word.
He's a pretty cool dude. Cool dude. So, but that's been my week. It's been a mixture of work. Student orientation is going on campus.
Yeah.
So,
new students,
new freshmen.
The freshmen and these guys. Let me see. They were born in 2000s.
No, 2001.
2001.
That doesn't make it any better because that still makes me feel old.
I mean, we all old at this point.
I'm like, good.
I'm forever young. What you mean?
Lord.
But we met a couple of them today.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We talked to a couple of them today. Had a little resource fair.
You weren't there, but me and Omar, the first source session, we talked to a few of them as well. Honestly, that first source group seemed to be more engaged, but I won't speak on that for
the first one was engaged. The one after that, the parents were really engaged.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there. I was only at the first one until today, so I wouldn't really know that.
That's what I'm saying. Like the second one was engaged. So like the first one, yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Shout out. All right. Well, if you're a minority student on Tech's campus, I would highly encourage you to make sure you get around, connect with the other minorities on campus. Trevon will be in Whole Washington, so obviously, you can connect with him through social media. But Omari, he's a master's student here, so he'll still be here. I still have
one semester.
I still have a full, whole year, so I'll be here. So, yeah.
Y'all got me for one semester, and then a master's is done, and I'm out. So, if you got questions, you got like, how many months in this semester? About 4?
I don't know.
3.5?
I don't know. I thought it was 6, but
you got from August till December.
Yeah.
So,
but all right. Well, sounds like everybody had a good week. What topic we getting into first?
Well, I've heard about this new series on Netflix called "When They See Us."
Yes.
In regards to in regards to the case of I believe it was titled New York versus Central Park 5.
Yeah.
It was about for those of you who don't know, back in the late 80s, there were a series of events that occurred on this particular night in Central Park. One of the events that took place was the beating and rape of a white woman. I don't know. I think she was in her 20s or 30s.
Yeah, her name is like Trisha Millie.
Yes, and she was one night she was jogging in the park like she normally did, and she was attacked and raped. Now, at this time, there were, like I said, apparently there were multiple events going on that same night around the same time in Central Park, and the police, when someone, I believe there was a couple that had found the jogger who was just laid out on the side of the road, naked and mutilated. She was still barely alive. And when the authorities were called about it, they started arresting young black and Hispanic men that ranged from age, what was it, like 12 to 15, 13 to 15 probably. And there were 5 men in particular, 4 Black American and 1 Hispanic, who were held for at least 12 hours. They were interrogated, they were beaten, and they were coerced to make false statements about a crime that none of them committed. When it came time for trial, long story short, they were all found guilty. 4 of the guys were sent to juvie, and then the 5th one was sent to your standard adult prison. He was transferred from one institution to the next for a number of years. So just recently they released a series, like a 4-part series on Netflix that chronicles the whole situation from that night up until after their release. So, and there's been a lot of commentary about it, a lot of I guess you could say an uprise in regards to it, because we're revisiting a case that represents a long history of unjust equality, equity, or an unjust situation in the political or legal system here in America that has caused families, especially minority families, to be separated or terrorized. So I guess that's the first topic that we'll go ahead and tackle today. So my question for you guys is, how did you feel watching the series?
Oh, I was mad after the first 15 minutes. It's rare for me. I think me, you, and someone else were watching when we first saw it, but I can tell you this: after the first 15 minutes,
it was just me and you.
Oh, just me and you?
Yeah,
okay.
First one.
Well, either way, y'all know me. I'm the peaceful one of the group. Most times, I was ready to fight somebody, and that's rare for me. That's the kind of mood that movie put me in. Now, granted, how they flushed everything out, I love that. They've done this, done the case justice in what it was, but there's how I felt about it. I'm not gonna lie, it was infuriating to see it played out. But this is, I don't know if I haven't heard this opinion on it much, but the other thing that stuck out to me about the movie was almost like the overarching story of it. I guess you could say I kind of looking at it through like almost like a spiritual lens almost. Just how like if you put God into the story, then how, even though they don't mention much, how the story plays out with him there. Just to give a small snippet, I'll go more in detail later on, but you see these kids go in and it's uniquely these 5. Granted, these are the ones that they got, these are the ones they interrogated, but it was these 5, and had it been any different, the story wouldn't have had the impact that it had. Or the case wouldn't have had the impact it had. You get what I'm saying? But I don't know, that's kind of where my mind was at when I saw this series.
Okay.
Well, what about you?
I mean, y'all know who I am. I saw it and I was mad. I was familiar with the Central Park, the Central Park 5 case, like, way before the miniseries came out. But, seeing the miniseries just kind of, it's kind of like what you said. It made the effect of it different, just seeing everything played out. Whoever made that miniseries, I want to say kudos to them.
Ava, I don't remember.
It's like Ava.
I got it right here.
I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
It was created by Ava DuVernay.
DuVernay, yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce
you, Ava.
Yeah, because I know
directed it.
she's also the one who came out with that 13th documentary series that came on Netflix a while ago as well.
I remember that one.
And I think we can all agree that one kind of had an impact as well, because we kind of had a conversation about it. But if I could describe it all, like, Episode 1 was just it infuriated me because of, I guess, how the cops, and particularly that her name is Lena Fairstein, but for those of y'all that don't know who I'm referring to the white lady who pretty much prosecuted these kids. Her name is Linda Fairstein. Her connotations made me mad. You know, she was just calling them thugs, animals. Like, I cannot stand that. The cops, how they were treating the kids when they got brought into the station. You know, oh, you raped that woman. You know, the kids saying they're no and whatnot, and then they're sitting there like, ow, smacking them and all that other shit, pushing them up against walls. Like, that infuriated me because it's like, cuz, like,
These are children.
These are children. These are like 15-year-old kids, and y'all are getting turned up on the fact that y'all are hemming them up for something they didn't do. Episode 2, you know, was the trial. You know, it was kind of like an emotion of anger plus fear. More or less, like, I was angry at the fact that, you know, so we had Lena first. We had Linda, and then you turn around and had the DA girl. I think her name was like Elizabeth Letter or something.
Yeah, I think I think she was the district attorney.
So, you know, first off, you have this one white woman, Linda, who is clearly hyped up on some racist stereotypes and are going after kids who clearly did not rape this woman. And then on the other hand, you got Elizabeth, who I think we can all agree, watching that miniseries, she knew that Linda was on that mess.
She knew.
Like, cause just the way she kept asking Linda questions, and the way old girl Linda kept responding to her, like, she knew something was up, and she knew those kids were not guilty. But later on in the episode, we see her start talking about, oh, this ain't even about what's right and wrong. It's about politics. It's about a game of survival. It should never be that way when we're talking about people's lives. But that's another side note. And then, you know, we come to the third episode where, you know, obviously they were found guilty. You know, we see how they've all, you know, they've been in jail, how they've been maturing and stuff like that. And then we see how they're handling things. Like, as years progress, they've grown up and they've gotten out of prison. And then the fourth episode just, man, wrecked me.
I just want well, not to cut you off, just wanted to like kind of break it up. You pretty much already did that. The first episode just talked about, it focused on the boys, like from the before the incident was reported, when they were in Central Park, and when they were caught, arrested, the interrogation and whatnot. The second episode focused on the trial and how they were found, quote unquote, guilty. Mm-hmm. The third episode focused on For the Boys, because it focused on For the Boys while they were in juvie. Because keep in mind, at that time, the adult, I don't know, the adult age has changed, but when you're 16, you were considered an adult under New York law. Because in the fourth episode, the only person that was considered adult at the time when he was arrested was
Korey Wise.
Yes, Korey Wise. He was the one that was separated from everybody else, but he had his own episode because it focused on how he struggled and how he had to persevere over the entrapment he was in when he was stuck in actually multiple jails. He kept being transferred.
He transferred. Now see, it was that episode though. I remember mentioning that that other lens that I was looking through. It was his portion that kind of tied that in together for me, because granted, I'm like you, that episode messed me up. But looking at it, it's like, yeah, I see these five boys get treated this way. I see these 5 boys get incarcerated, and 4 of them are in juvie, get out, and they have their own struggles to deal with. But then you see Korey, and I don't remember what official, because I believe he has a mental deficiency, didn't he?
Yeah,
Something
so
like
like,
Oh well, he.
so like, hold on. So around the time Korey Wise was arrested, he had been skipping school, and he didn't know how to like read and write well.
Right.
So pretty much when he got arrested, you know. Okay, if we okay, hold on. Let me say this. Korey Wise wasn't even a suspect when this went down. That's the crazy thing about it. Like, I found it even more. I took his story even more hard because initially he wasn't even a suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yusef was a suspect, and Yusef got picked up, and Korey went with him because, if I remember correctly, quote, it was like, your mom would kill me if I didn't come with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to get into the fact of how Yusef's mom treated everybody else after all that stuff went down. I'm not going to get into that. Obviously, y'all know about my facial expressions. I wasn't with that at all. But he wasn't even a suspect at first, but then he caught more of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my aim comes from with that, because you know, I remember sitting there thinking, it's like, man, out of the 5 of them, he caught the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also, in a sense, I'm going to use this loosely, but he's also in a sense the most innocent of the 5. And the reason I say he's the most innocent because he, you know, like you said, he couldn't, you know, he skipped school, wasn't reading. He really was just there. He's like, I don't want no trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also the one that was told, hey, love even your enemies, by his mom. And I remember seeing that. I was like, you know what? It's crazy, but if you look at it, on one side, you know, look at his mom. For his mom, for example, all the stuff that they went through their family, you know, with Korey's brother, his brother dying, father not being in the picture.
Even before his brother died, I mean, okay, like
It was
for those of y'all that don't know, like that man's brother. I don't know if he was transsexual or not, but we gonna use transsexual for the purpose of this, so y'all know what we're talking about. So, and his brother got kicked out the house because the mom didn't necessarily agree with it. So,
yeah. But what amazing though is that she came back later. She came to visit him, and she told him that she found God. She found Christ.
mm-hmm.
And that's how the thing is, like, you know what's crazy? It took him being incarcerated for her to find him. But then you look at it too, I you know, y'all may feel the same way about this, but at least to me, it felt like, hey, this case really set in. You know, it set in, all of them. We saw, it was like, man, this is terrible. But Korey was the one who drove it home. He maintained that, you know, I didn't do it. He kept that innocence. He maintained that I didn't do it. But he was also the one pushed to love, even though he persecuted him. So it's like, you know, I'm seeing that as like, you know, throughout this whole, and I'm gonna call it a story because, you know, it's another example of a human story. The whole course of the story, we see it brought back full circle. It's like, okay, Korey was the one that had to do it because he was the one that could. He may not have felt it. We may have all been seen as like, man, Korey, this don't need to be happening to you. But in reality, he's the one that was in the perfect position to do what needed to be, you know, what needed to be done on the large scale of things. So, you know, I was, you know, that's what like I was watching the episode that kind of like put my mind in that kind of framework. It's like it's saddening to see, but it's also amazing to see too.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I don't want you to go through this, but at the same time, if it had been anybody else, I don't know if the outcome would have been the same.
I don't know.
Probably not.
Like, for me, how I felt about the whole thing, it irritated me. First off, because these were kids. Like, no child should have gone through what they had went through, and the fact that the police had the nerve to walk around with that kind of credibility, practically, I'll say, torturing these kids, physically and mentally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, I'll put it that way. It's just sickening. I mean, because they were so young. Because kids are the easiest to manipulate, especially in the world that we live in today. So, and I think about what the father said when he was left alone with his son in the interrogation room, and how he said, I can't quote a word for word, but I do know when he said when the police want to get what they, in order for them to get what they want, he pretty much said that they will lie on us, they will beat us, they will kill us. They'll do whatever is necessary to get what they want. That's essentially what he was saying.
Yeah.
That really right there stuck to me. Now, of course, are all police officers like this? No. But unfortunately, you do have a certain population that do act in that way, unfortunately. And they have that disguise in those blue or black uniforms, whatever the case may be. Now, what really hit me out of all those episodes was the third episode. Reason why is because you really not only do you look at how for the boys that were in juve, you don't just see how they kind of made their way through it, but you also see how them being incarcerated and then being placed on public record affected their livelihoods pretty much. These guys had their relationship with their family, their friends, even the relationships that they even made after they were released were all, starting to tear down on them. It wasn't the same as it was before they were tried and incarcerated. And then it was also difficult for them to find a job. He had one guy, he was able to work with I think it was like a computer company. What was his name? Not Sim. The one who was Muslim.
Oh, Yusuf.
Yeah, he thankfully he found a job. One of the other boys, he had found a job working for a movie theater, and he had met somebody, ended up getting a relationship with, but even then the relationship was still strenuous because he was trying to save money to go back to school, and at the time his girlfriend was saying that he was being selfish, and then calling him a rapist, even though he didn't do anything. So you have all these things going on, all these people that they're coming across, all these job opportunities they could have. They're limited on what they can do because they were falsely accused. That really hit me a lot, because then when you look at the Hispanic boy that was incarcerated after he got out, he was let go from a job that he was hired to do, but then after that he started selling drugs because he felt that he was left with no other option. His father had got remarried to a woman that did not trust him at all, and so he left home. He left that home to move somewhere else. Ended up selling drugs and ended up getting arrested again. It is because it all goes back to them being falsely accused and incarcerated. Because when something like that happens to anybody, you're limited on what you can do in life after you're released, if you're able to get out. So that. It was that episode in particular that really hit me. And then the fourth one, of course, with Wise, that was the second big thing that hit me, especially all the troubles he went through, the abuse he went through, the beatings, how the officers that patrolled these facilities, one in particular had abused him and used him for certain resources, and how he had to force himself just to confine himself to solitary confinement to keep himself safe. And he did that with every single facility that he was transferred to, because he knew that was probably his only safe option. And so it's stuff like that really, really gets to me. Like I've seen movies like this before, and really in regards to Black history, we see like slave films that really get really get us amped up, or civil rights films that really really get us strung up, and really has us in our emotions. But this right here really, really took the cake. It was something. I don't know if it was the story, how it was plotted, or if the creator of this film did a good job at really pushing the information or shoving the information to us. It could be both. It was just hard to watch.
I think the reason why it was different is because they originally went to her to do the story, so it was like they could tell their own personal story, like Probably for the first time in a minute too.
Yeah.
To where someone would believe him, because I know you were saying like, you know, people typically when we view like black films that are about like slavery and the discrimination that we have gone through, typically a lot of times I hear black people say that they don't really like the movies because it often plays on our trauma, and then additionally it's kind of like a money grabber. But with this miniseries, that just wasn't the case, you know. I think this miniseries was them like telling their story.
Yeah.
Now, people can either watch it, and people can't. But if you decide not to watch it, I don't think that gives you the right to go out here saying like, oh, I'm not finna watch it because it's taking advantage of black trauma and all that other stuff. Like, that argument just don't work. The argument doesn't work in this situation, because it's not like Ava went to them and was like, I want to tell y'all guys' story in a miniseries on Netflix. They came to Ava. And wanted their story shared. So off rip, you can't say it's taking advantage of them, because they're the ones that wanted to tell the story.
Gotcha.
And then additionally, like, if we're gonna keep it a band, I'm gonna need everybody to quit acting like they know 100% of black history, because I don't either. So I'm kind of thankful for when these movies come out, because I'm taught some stuff that eventually, you know, prior to, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, added in that aspect as well. I also agree with you on the third episode. You know, what I really liked about the third episode is how their families were reacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I understood where their families are coming from, even though I didn't agree. But I understood where you're coming from. Now, as far as the Hispanic guy and his father and her stepmom, well, nah, she could have got the word as soon as I walked through the house. Like, point blank period. Like, you being extra, his stepmom was just extra for no reason. Talking mess when I come in the house. Talking mess when I leave the house. Talking mess when I bring someone to the house.
No, that was funny.
And then on top of that, she has her mom and her sisters talking mess too. It's just a whole bunch of toxic females around in that situation, and I don't blame him for selling drugs and wanting to get out of that situation, because you don't want that in your ear the whole time.
You got to look at it too. One of the driving reasons he even went to drugs outside of the work was his girl, because she came up to him and was like, oh yeah, no, I found a place that we can move into, and this is one of the few people that actually was in his corner.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he wanted to move in.
Aside from his father, that girl was the only person in his corner.
Yeah,
and then that part was actually funny when he brought the girl over, and then he got caught. This man tried to shut the door quick. That was too that one scene, that was too funny.
Hey man, I would have hit that. I think it was his stepmama's mama, but I would have hit her with a mean Spartan kick. Get away from the door.
But you know what? The one thing I do absolutely love, one of the few things I did love about the story itself, that even though these guys did not know each other at all, they actually formed a bond.
They did.
They formed a more of a brotherly bond. All of them did. Even though they were forced to blame each other through these interrogations, they knew something was up when they were together. They apologized to each other, and they formed a bond before, during, and after the trial. Because once they were released, they still all got together. They talked about their struggles, and they pretty much fellowship. That's the one thing I love about this story, because even in regards to all the crap they go through because of something they did not do, because of an unjust legal system, they still have the courage to stand up for each other and to stick to their truth.
Yeah,
because they knew none of these. They knew each other. They knew they did not have anything to do with this incident that took place. And I love that's the one part of the whole miniseries, well, not the miniseries, but the story
Well, I mean, that's
I was trying to say the series. I was trying to say like the actual story itself. That's the one part of the story, or one part of their account that I truly love.
Yeah,
because they stuck by each other.
I feel that. I know for me it was that it's actually on a very similar note because I love looking at situations like this that are fleshed out, but I love seeing that even though it's in that dark time, I love seeing the little sparks of light here and there that often take the shape of love. So like with the parents, for example, even though the relationship with the parents may have been what it was, but you could tell that at least the parents were trying to love their children. Antron's dad, granted, he gave him some advice they thought would protect him. It didn't turn out the way he thought it did, but he gave some advice. No, he did it out of love.
Yeah.
But then he continued, even after Antron got out, and Antron was, behaving the way he was towards his father, and like that, I blame you kind of thing. But the dad was still like, hey, you're my son, and just because of that, I want to love you. And even small little things like that, the brother he was speaking of, stuff like that. I love seeing those little pockets of hope. Heck, even when Korey was incarcerated, the PO that really had his back. I can't think of his name.
If we're gonna be real, I'm gonna make this public service announcement. The white guard, Roberts, was the realest person to Korey in the series. And yes, I did the hand claps because I'm telling the truth.
No, it's the
y'all
truth.
Y'all watch the series because these are all personal accounts. You watch the series. This is probably the only person he can count on while he was incarcerated. Like in the building, he was the only one. No. That man stuck by him through thick and thin. Got him a job while he was incarcerated too. That man really did what he could to help because he felt like he recounted that he had a son back home, and he said he would want if his son was in that same position, he would want somebody to take care of him as well.
Even when you go towards when Korey found out that his brother died, the only person who was there to give him a shoulder to cry on,
or a hug, like to try to hug it out,
was Roberts.
My guy Roberts. Shout out to you, Roberts. I don't know if he's still alive, but shout out to you, Roberts.
I'm sure he is.
Sure he is. That was the other thing I did love about the movie, because there was a line there where Korey was breaking down. He was saying, I'm gonna censor it because PG, but nobody gives about me. You said that over and over again, breaking down. Roberts, grabbed him and took him in and stuff like that. But that line, it really set a tone, but it gave voice to, outside of this case, to even down to our own lives, our own little bubble. When people come up saying like, oh well, there's no reason you should be angry about this. There's no, racism is gone. Racism is, it's not as powerful as it used to be, or. Even the old one, oh well, all lives matter. It's like, yeah, all lives matter, but that's not what we're saying. We're saying exactly what Korey was saying. No one cares.
Yeah, this whole thing, it just makes me. It thinks about Michael Jackson's music video. They don't care about us. It used to be more explicit than what we see now, because one of these networks, I don't know, it was MTV, so one of these television networks, when they got the original footage of the music video, they thought it was so radical, they did not air it. And whenever I see that video, whenever I will see the ministers or anything related to this, something similar to it, I always think about that music video or the song as a whole, because it speaks true. Because of the world we live in and the way this country has developed, there's a lot of injustices that they're just out there that have not been confronted yet. They're either obvious or they're unseen, like with this. Because I'm pretty sure this was unseen for an incredibly long time before it finally came out to the public about what really happened behind closed doors when they were interrogated. But do y'all have any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I'll say my final thought and then I'll kind of lead into the next topic. I guess my final thought is like, after watching that miniseries and then, kind of taking it and kind of like researching and reading about like, the aftermath of it and stuff like that. First thing I saw is that, of course, naturally they sued the city. who wouldn't? You know, now at first, like, at first the city, well, yeah, at first they weren't gonna pay him anything, you know, and they were kind of firm on like, no, we still believe y'all did it, even though someone came out and the DNA and his testimony confirmed that.
They were strong. They were strong.
You know, like there were strong connections to suggest that his name is like Reyes, but there were strong connections to suggest that Reyes is actually the person that did it. Simply by the fact is, bruh, his DNA matched while none of the other 5 boys matched.
They
like, bruh.
they just strong. They just strong. Like they keep repeating this throughout the miniseries. They strongly believe that all 6 of them were involved in it. Like, cause when investigators were seeing that. When they realized that the evidence did not link the 5 boys that they interrogated to the crime, they assumed that, okay, because they really wanted to incarcerate these boys, but they just to close the case. But they were convinced that there was a 6th person involved, when in actuality it was just that one individual and not the other 5 boys. They kept pushing.
They kept pushing it because they didn't want to see any other view.
I mean,
you look at even when who was it? Elizabeth. When she was presented with the evidence, like, hey, none of these guys match. You saw her sitting there thinking, it's like, there's a 6th guy. Where'd he come from?
I don't think Elizabeth did that. Like when she saw that it was the 5, like when she saw that the DNA didn't match. In my opinion, she was pretty much telling the other lady, Linda, that like, this is not a good case for me to pursue. But then again, it just goes back to that whole game of politics. You feel me? Like the game of politics don't care about the facts or whatever. It's legit like a game of survival. You either gonna do what's best, you know, in the political realm to save your seat, or you gonna do the right thing. Now, in this case, she obviously like played the political game, but you know, I just think it's interesting to see, like, you know, in today's time how everybody is reacting to it. You know, the original victim, the jogger, she personally feels like it wasn't just one person. Now, like, hey, you know, again, I understand where she's coming from on that, because it's kind of like you got knocked over the head and left for dead in the park, and really the only people who cared about you and made sure that you were straight were the police. So it's kind of hard for a person to like suddenly look at someone and be like, oh no, you were wrong, when they were like the first person genuinely taking care of that person. So for the victim, I understand, don't agree, but I understand. I'm just gonna leave it there.
And she had lost, and because of the whole incident caused a lot of physical harm to her and trauma. She suffered. She suffered memory loss. She couldn't remember anything. Like anything after that, she can't remember. She only remembers the stuff leading up to when she was pretty much jogging. Because when she was tried, the attorneys, the lawyers, were asking her a bunch of questions about what she remembered. She remembers nothing about what happened in the park that night, because the damage that was done to her was so severe, she lost her memory. Right. So she could have been a good ally for the defense, but because of that memory loss, there was not much she could really do.
So, you know, unfortunate. You know, it is unfortunate for her, you know, like, and one thing we gotta tell people is that, listen, just because the situation happened, it doesn't make the jogger lady any less of a victim. You know, she did go through that.
She did.
But, you know, obviously there were variables in the situation that, you know, led to a different outcome. Now, as far as this Linda lady, she's been pretty firm that she did right in locking them away. So for Linda, listen, I don't got no hate in my heart to you. All I gotta say is that if you continue on this train of thought that these innocent minority kids did this, and that Reyes is somehow some mystery 6 suspect that you didn't introduce until the evidence got introduced to you, karma finna hit you real fast. It's kind of already hit her real fast, you know. She's a best-selling author. Bookstore's gonna start pulling her book from the shelf. They already have. I read another article, that said that she was going to be presented with an award for achievement from a woman that got taken away because of.
That's what happens
that's what happens. And apparently she was on the board of trustees, and they removed her from the board of trustees. So it's like I said, man. Listen. When you make bad choices, man, it's gonna catch up to you, regardless. And for Linda, Miss Ava making sure that karma come fast and quickly. So, but yeah, I encourage everybody to check out When They See Us. If you don't, I understand. It is a lot and it is emotional.
Yeah. And don't forget, on the 12th, so next Wednesday, Oprah Winfrey, she did a kind of like an aftermath to this. It's called When They See Us Afterwards, I think was what it's called. It's another documentary by this. It's focused on, I guess she interviewed the Central Park. She interviewed the Central Park 5, and she's mainly focused on the aftermath of the situation. And that'll be released on Netflix and the Oprah Winfrey Network on the 12th. So that'll be coming out soon. So watch this first, and then be prepared to watch this next installment.
Mm-hmm. But let's get on to the next topic. Hey man, should men be providers, bro?
Men be providers. Elaborate.
Okay, I guess nowadays I'm seeing a whole lot of women state that they want a man that obviously that takes care of them, but it's like different degrees. You feel what I'm saying? There are some women who are like, oh, he needs to be the sole provider, where you have the other women that are like, I'll provide for myself, but it's his responsibility to provide for the both of us, if that makes sense. So it's kind of just like,
Okay. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. So my viewpoint is it's all right. If you want a man that'll provide for you, that's cool. But at least in my opinion, I'm expecting something in return as well. Like really, because you think about a relationship, a marriage, whatever the case may be, that takes two people. Last time I checked. If that's the case, both parties should be putting in the same amount of energy and the same amount of work that provides for both parties. So if you want me to provide for you, cool. But I'm also expecting you to provide for me as well. It's not a man thing. It's not a woman thing. It's a relationship. So if we want to make this whole thing work out, you can't expect me to provide everything while you do nothing. Or you just do the bare minimum while I do all the work. And the same thing is vice versa. We gotta work together equally. Everything's gotta be fair. That's my opinion, or at least my answer to your question.
My opinion is kind of like this. The way I view the relationship. Y'all ever heard the phrase, the husband runs the household?
Yeah.
Similar to that, but not the way that most people take it. When I think of that, I think of the husband facilitates as to where the wife manages. And like you said, in that partnership role, but with the facilitation comes providing. In the sense like, okay, I'm making sure everything is straight. Wife, you happy? Cool. You doing what you want to do? Cool. Are we happy? Cool. Kids, y'all straight? Cool. Let me go make sure that there's a cover, that the house is covered. Let me go make sure that we're set up to do what we need to do. Wife, if you want to provide. Help me. If you want to go out, go work. I'm not gonna stop you. That's kind of how I view it. It's like you said, it's that dual partnership, but in the sense that the man facilitates and makes sure things run smoothly. And in that sense, that's where I think, yeah, he still provides. Because facilitator, you have to make sure the provisions are there so that way you can do what you need to do. What about you?
I mean, I honestly just think a whole lot of women nowadays just want daddies. So that's how I feel about it. So that's that on that. I mean, like, I agree with the both of y'all. It should be a dual partnership, and you know, I do agree with the whole, you know, the husband facilitates while the wife manages and whatnot. But honestly, I don't really think a whole lot of people think like that nowadays.
They don't.
Cause honestly, I really think like a whole lot of women have in their head that dudes are supposed to pay for everything. And you want me to be real? If that's what they believe, then they finna have a very unhappy husband, in my opinion. The fact that kind of like all the financial obligations are on you, so like you're the only one with the financial obligations. So if you mess up financially, like, it's bad, and you know that's a heavy weight, in my opinion, that nobody should have. And so I feel like the fact that women nowadays say they want a dude that pays for everything and whatnot, sounds like you finna have a very unhappy, stressed out husband if you want to keep it in bed with you.
All I know is in that case, my wallet ain't that fat. If
Exactly.
you want me to keep it, my wallet is not that fat. So like, if I'm in a relationship and I'm barely able to support myself, what makes you think that the funding that barely supporting one will all of a sudden support two? Granted, sacrifices are always a thing. But you're putting strain on everything by simply putting all the weight and financial responsibility on one person.
Exactly.
So
that's why I just don't vibe with the whole I don't vibe real well when I see women asking for money all the time. Cause I don't like it when dudes do it. Like, so it's kind of it's the same. It's kind of the same either or. Like, bro, like, I'll help you out, but I'm not finna cover all your financial obligations, cuz, you know, like, we wouldn't say that to another grown man. Why would we say that to a grown woman? And, you know, I know women like to say, oh, well, you know, they're the most educated and all that other stuff. They be making the most jobs and things like that. But man, listen here. Obviously, you ain't making that much money if you asking other dudes for money. Period. That's all. As far as I'm concerned, obviously you ain't making that much if you out here begging other people for money.
unless you just don't want to spend your own.
Exactly. Now, if you don't want to spend your own, that's fine. But don't expect nobody else to do it.
Yeah.
See,
That's
my
like
question
a personal problem with me.
Yeah, that's a whole personal problem. Oh, you don't want to drop 25 for your nails? That ain't my problem. You my girlfriend? No, that ain't my problem. You better go find you a beta dude that want to pay for your nails, and you not even finna. See, bruh. See, cause here's the thing, bruh. Dudes will actually send girls monies for like a crumb of the vagina, bruh. Like, bro, you ain't even get the whole vagina. You got a crumb. And you out here doing this beta male stuff. Like, that, like, it don't make sense to me. And another thing that don't make sense to me is, like, now, would y'all say that a man providing is a gender role?
Providing what?
That's my question, because the question that keeps popping in my mind is, Because it sounds like it's deep. I get a feeling it's deeper than just finances.
So, okay.
Because go ahead.
Well, I'm about to say, if you talk about like if it's a man and woman with a child, I wouldn't even say they're married yet, but let's say like a provider of not just financially, but a provider of care, time, especially towards that child if they were to have a baby out of their relationship. I would say also a provider of
Safety.
Just a provider of essentials, resources. I'll say. So I say you asked if it's a gender role. That's a hard one. I would say yes, especially if it's in regards to a child. It's really a gender role for both the male and the female to provide.
Right.
Money, whether it's money, time, patience, safety, all that kind of stuff. I would say the gender role for both the man and the woman, specifically with a child.
I agree. That is a hard one to answer. So then the question that I'll ask is, in most cases where you're trying to tear down a family or a household, the question lies in the why of targeting the male first. Why target the husband? AKA, why target the head of the household? If there is no role that is specific to that individual, then taking him away would not do any harm to the family other than, oh, you're running off just one less member of the family. But what we see is when the male is taken away from the family, from the household, we see things begin to fall apart. And even on cases of generational, we see apathy in a sense. Case in point, single parent households. Now granted, I'm not saying that single parents cannot be a thing. I'm not saying that, a single mother can't raise a family, because we've seen it. They've done it. But we've also seen the impact that it has to have the father there too. We've also seen the impact that it has when generations of fathers have been taken away.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, if there is no significant importance to the male in that relationship, why is he targeted to be moved? And in this case, in terms of provision, like you said, there's a lot that you can say that the male, that the husband provides. So if that quote unquote provision is gone, does that statement still hold water? Because there's no, you see what I'm saying? There's no importance. Then there's no harm in him not being there.
What I would say is, I believe the role of the man in providing that does become a necessity, because there are certain things that a man can do or say, or rather, there are certain things a man could talk about that a woman cannot. It's the same thing where there are certain things that a woman can provide or talk about that a man cannot. So it kind of goes back to the child thing. So you're raising a family. Let's say you have a boy and a girl. Now, in regards to the boy, you're definitely going to need that father figure, because as history has proven time and time again, young boys need father figures, or really a father. They need a father, because they communicate with each other on a level that that boy and the mother can't necessarily reach, because they're two opposite genders. There are certain things that the father's going to understand about that boy that the mother will not, and that same principle applies in the relationship between the mother and the daughter. So, yeah, going back to your original question, Wolfgang, fathers do play a role. I would say being a provider does play a role. It will play a gender role for the male, and same thing applies to the mother or woman. Right. There's just that the degree of what they provide depends on when the situation calls for it. It depends on what situation occurs for them to call on that role.
So, well,
The reason I asked that question is because is that oftentimes, you know, this kind of goes back to our episode where when we were talking about double standards. What I'm seeing nowadays is that people want gender roles, but in specific areas. But also at the same time, they don't want the gender roles. So, like, here's an example. Y'all, you know, the reason I asked y'all, you know, was the whole providing thing a gender role? Okay, women say dudes need to be a provider. That's a gender role. But don't y'all feel like when we kind of, you know, kind of state the role? I'm not saying like a bad role. Hold on, let me correct this before someone get all hypey and stuff. Basically, what I'm saying is that it seems to me that certain men and women are supposed to subscribe to a gender role, while certain men and women are not, and it don't make sense to me. Some women say that men should be a provider. That's a gender role. Some men would say that women need to not, dress, bad outside.
I got you.
But obviously we see where the dudes take issue with the whole providing thing, and we see where the women take issue with the whole clothing thing. So it's kind of like, oh, we want roles, but at the same time we don't, because it affects how we move in life type ish. Yeah. So
where's the disconnect?
Like, yeah.
So I think this is just me just thinking out loud on this particular thing.
I didn't know. I thought it had sound off.
That was my jam for a second.
I put it on mute.
But like, this is just me just thinking out loud on this one. But because I feel kind of the same. I feel that with gender roles in particular, that as a society we've made them like we've made a lot of other issues, particularly black and particularly white. But I think part of the issue lies in really the language. The reason I say that, look back at older languages, for example, right? We can go back far as like Latin, you can go back far as Greek, you can go back as far as Hebrewic, ancient languages, where a singular word, its importance was in its weight and not its mere definition. Because the same word could mean a number of different things.
I guess you can say that for the N-word.
You can say that for the N-word, but more on the sense of meaning than specific. Things were more broad.
You talk about how words
used to be.
You had gender. Where it's honest.
I'll give an example. A good example, for example, is I think it's an old Hebrewic word. I'm probably gonna butcher the pronunciation of it, but it's like ruach or something like that. In some translations, it means the Great Spirit, right? It means like an embodiment, embodying presence. In other examples, it's the wind. But in other examples, it's a vastness. So it's the same word, just when applied to certain context, it takes on a certain meaning, but it's a loaded word. That's what I'm getting. That's a loaded word. But you get to where we're at now, especially with the English language. Each word is so specific. Sometimes, English is easily said the hardest language to learn, simply because there's so many words.
They have so many different meanings.
So many different meanings. When really it used to be just simple.
Yeah.
So I see that same thing being applied to gender norms. Like you said earlier, people don't see it. People don't see that facilitation and see that management the way that way anymore. But that's from the mere statement that the man runs a household. When we hear that nowadays, oftentimes we'll hear it played out as, oh, well, the man is the dominant figure of the household. He's the one who runs it. Everyone submits to him. No. He facilitates. Things go through him to get to the family. but he's in charge of making sure that the family runs smoothly, as to where the wife is in charge of saying, okay, let me support, but also let me manage the family.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I really don't believe gender roles are. Or rather, I don't think they should be a constant variable. Like me saying that the male's a dominant figure and the female's submissive. That shouldn't be. I mean, that shouldn't be the status quo. I mean, you know what you just said. You know, it. Honestly, I think like the whole gender role thing, that was something that's just developed over time by us. Because when I think about this, I think about, y'all know I always make nature references, animal references. Because you do have certain species that are led by females. Prime example, ring-tailed lemurs. In these groups, you have male and females, but it's a female that's the leader of the group, not a male. You have elephants. When you have a herd of elephants, those are typically all females, unless they're young. You have a young male. Because they're headed by a matriarch. The female elephant with experience, the protector, the leader, etc., etc. You look at a pride of lions. Yeah, you have a male there that's supposed to be there to, is typically there to, help safeguard the family, but the ratio between the male and females is kind of outweighed. The females outweigh the males in the pride. The females are the ones that commence the hunting. They're the ones that bring the males to the or at least capture the male for the pride, and they're the ones who take care of the cubs every day. So it's like the gender roles aren't rigid. There you go. Yeah, they're not rigid. So I feel like with humanity, we need to be more flexible in regards to male and female positions within a relationship or within the family, and who should do what.
Now let me ask y'all this then. Now this podcast being the kind of podcast that it is, we're always gonna bring it to somewhere where it's gonna uplift or build, even to bring the spiritual side. So my question becomes now, what's the spiritual side to it? Because I think we're all in agreement that gender roles shouldn't be so rigid as they are. But what that introduces to it is, so if they're not rigid, that means we can be fluid. And in some cases that's good, but in some cases, as we've seen with many other things, that's not the best thing. So my question now becomes, what's the spiritual side of it? Because if you can find the spiritual side of it, you rein it all in. And you put it under the perspective that it needs to be put under. So I guess that's really my question. What do y'all think? What is the spiritual side to it, if anything?
With gender norm? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, with
gender roles? My bad.
Or gender roles, gender norms. We talking about both really, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not really sure there. If you want me to be real, I'm not really sure there would be a spiritual side to gender roles, because it is a social construct at the end of the day. It was something created by humans, not the Lord. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to have like a. I don't know, because it's really a social norm.
You hit on something then. If gender norms is a social construct, then what is the God construct?
I guess that's something we gotta take a look at. I'm not too sure.
Wait, you said what?
I said if the gender norms is a social construct, what then is the God construct?
What of gender roles? I'm not sure, because it kind of goes back to what I just said. I don't really see like a spiritual side to it, because it's a social construct.
But there could be possibly a spiritual side to it if we were to find, or if we were to look. But
at that point, I wouldn't consider it a social construct.
Well, then the question you have to ask yourself then at that point is, how do the roles look biblically?
That's what I was kind of going into it. Like, you would look at the scripture, maybe you'll probably be able to find something that
Yeah,
gets
but
detailed.
I mean, I understand that, but I wouldn't contribute what is biblically said to the social construct of gender roles that we have now.
Do you think if someone were to go and apply that to what we have now, we'd see a difference?
Not really, because people are kind of stuck in their ways. If you want me to be real, you know, I honestly think nowadays people are kind of like stuck in their ways, so they don't really want to come out of it, you know.
I feel that. But that's an interesting point. I don't know. Sitting there thinking on that, because I actually not knowing the answer completely myself, but thinking on it a little bit, we see examples of both strong men and strong women, and how they both do things their own way. So, looking at that, you put God in the picture. I think if people saw that, it might put it in perspective. But then again, like you said, people will meet people. Not saying that they can't change.
I mean, they can change.
They always change.
I guess what I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, biblically speaking, when I read on how God says, you know, the husband and the wife are supposed to act, I don't really consider those like quote unquote roles. Like, that's me taking that as God, you know, this is what God intended with how marriage to be. Now we come out of that, and then we start getting gender roles. Oh, a man should do this, a woman should do this, a man should do this, and then you start stating stuff that's not even listed in the Bible. So at that point, it's kind of hard for me to kind of come at it from a spiritual sense, because it's kind of like, first of all, y'all are adding in roles that wasn't even stated in the Bible in the first place. And then on top of that, the definition of a social construct is something that's done by society. So again, for me, it just kind of goes back to like, okay, some of these quote unquote gender roles that y'all have aren't even biblically based. So it's kind of hard for me to have like a spiritual opinion on it. I can open up the Bible and tell you how a husband and you know, the intentions of how God saw a husband and a wife supposed to, but I'm not finna attribute that to gender roles. I'm not even finna call it a gender role. I'm like, this is what the husband should do, this is what the wife should do, but I don't think it's a gender role. I mean, honestly, I feel I would say the same thing about racism. Race is a social construct. Mm-hmm. Biblically, we all human. We all part of one race, human. But now we live in a time where race has become a social construct, so you got black, white, Hispanic, color, all that other stuff. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to kind of see like a spiritual / biblical aspect to it when, first of all, it wasn't even God ordained in the first place. It was done by society in order to separate us, and it kind of pushed like the discrimination that was already kind of happening around that time. So
what that answer tells me is, on the other side, that may be where the spiritual side lies. And what I mean by that is, because what you're touching on is something that we see, like I said, we see it often, where something will be intended, and that social construct, you know, breeds a generation of division. But even behind that, because from the way things are sounding, if it's not God's intention, then that's us trying to take matters into our own hands. Is that fair? Mm. So if we're taking matters into our own hands, and we keep going down that path, then what that path of division tells me is that it's no longer his intentions, but now it's, I'm gonna use it again, you loosely, but wicked intentions. Y'all have read the passage that's talking about our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wickedness in high places. It's described when, when Scripture talks about putting on the armor of God, and it's pretty much saying that, hey, our real enemy is not flesh and blood, but it's spiritual forces. Spiritual forces in high places, or principalities in high places. Different translations of different things, but the point still remains the same. It's not us who we're fighting against. So, under that premise, that's what I'm saying, the other side. Y'all kind of see where I'm going with it. All that division coming from that spiritual side of division, instead of the spiritual side of, this is what God intended. Pretty much a good and evil scenario. It's pretty much what I guess my mind is describing right now. We can look back at the Center Park 5 case. We see all this stuff happening, but one of the things that movie really fleshed out, if you pay attention to it, is it fleshed out, even that just the situation, I don't even just go into the situation, what it fleshed out is the wickedness in men's heart. That's probably just the best way I can phrase that, but that's what we see. Men and women doing messed up things. Now in that case it's outright, but oftentimes it's not as outright as that, sometimes really subtle. So I guess what I'm saying is I see that same thing in this case too. Something that divides us instead of unifying. And we take matters against one another instead of taking it to who it needs to be going to.
Alright.
That's what we can say.
Alright, time for the last one. Do you want to introduce this last topic?
The last topic. Oh boy. So, this past Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, so in Cookville, Tennessee, a good mentor of ours, but he's also pastors at church, and he's a church plant here in town called Kainos Church. That's where we attend, but that's also the place that we serve at. We get up in the morning, we help, we serve at the church. But this past Sunday, we got there early, doing what we needed to do. When we see an older gentleman walk by on a stroller or a walker, and he came by, and I believe he was asking for medicine. He said that he was sick. He was trying to get to somewhere he can get medicine, or somewhere he can get help or food or water, stuff like that. We didn't have any medicine, didn't really have any money to give him, but we gave him some water, and then we took him, got in the car and took him where he needed to go. But on the way there, this is really where the interesting part happens, and I'm curious where everybody's mind was at when it all was going down. Because when it first happened, at least for me, when it first happened, when saw him coming, I was like, okay, I'm not sure who he is, but it looks like he needs some help. Keep an ear out to see what's going on. And I remember sitting there, hearing a little voice in my back of my head just say, "Even the least of us." That was the only thought, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Saw Pastor Rob give him some water, and then we talked about getting him to where he needed to go. And on the car ride, come to find out, he's been sick. He doesn't know why, but he can't go to the hospital because he's got no money. He's homeless, and they won't treat him. And he's been out there for, I don't know for how long, but you can tell he's been out there for a little minute. Not really any support, not really anywhere to go to. And we took him to where he asked us to drop him off at, because he asked us to drop him off at a clinic originally. They were closed. We took him to where he was staying, and it wasn't really someone's house, but it was a vacated house. And he was staying out of a carport in the back of the house. There were other men living there too, but you could a little dog, but you can tell that it wasn't anything that was furnished. They were literally just, bunkering down there. So we left. Later that evening, we came back and brought him some food, some water, and things like that. But I don't know. I remember sitting there thinking, it's like I don't like that he's out there, because I've seen, especially with the medical stuff, but that part really hit me. I've seen it before where, even a friend of mine, he passed away because he didn't have money to be treated for something that was small. But, these men are out here just really doing what they can just to live. They're not in good shape. Don't really got anywhere to go. And it's hard to say, it's like, okay, well, we want, why don't we just have them go to a home or something like that? It's not really that simple. Especially if it's not going to be permanent. Because what they needed was something permanent. So, we prayed over stuff like that too, but at least that was my lens of it. Probably the best way to describe it. I may be leaving stuff out, but what about y'all? What was y'all's lens on this situation? Because you can really hit a lot of different areas on it. At least I feel you can.
I was thinking about that area in particular where we dropped them off, because like you said, at first I thought it was just two guys. The first time I went there, they were just living it out in this abandoned shed that's right next to the house that was foreclosed. The whole area, the whole neighborhood was foreclosed. Like the apartment complex across the street from the house was foreclosed. The house next to that house that he was staying at was foreclosed. Everything was foreclosed in that one block. And you can see the division. There's like around this whole area, everything's foreclosed. Go down 2 blocks, you have apartments, like well-furnished apartments that look good on the outside that people were living in. So it tells you that the area that was foreclosed had to be owned and operated by a certain property management company that wasn't taking care of. It must not have been taking care of the area. So I noticed that at first, and then when we went back over the second time that afternoon to drop off the food and other supplies, I noticed how it ended up being 3 guys, and how all of them were situated like they're lying on top of garbage and debris that's on the bare ground of that shed. The dog, there's flies all over the place. Wouldn't be surprised there were like fleas or any other kind of parasites there. You can smell the area. Dog looks sick. Everybody in there looks sick. But the main thing that was on their mind, or at least one of the guys' minds, when we got there, we got them some food and some clean water. We had bought a dog for the dog, but the first thing that was on that man's mind, was a cigarette, like a lighter or a cigarette. That was he just wanted to smoke. He didn't even pay much attention to the food and water that we brought. He was just focused on when he was going to get his next smoke in. And you could tell that they had been drinking too, because there were bottles all over the place. And they looked intoxicated. They're already sick. They had intoxication on top of that. And like our pastor said, they were trying to find some way to alleviate or at least temporarily escape from the pain of reality that they were in. It was terrible that there was not much more we could do. Cause we thought about giving them cash as well. Like we had like $60-something available to us, so we paid. One of the guys that go to the church paid for the food and other supplies, and we had some cash that we could possibly give to the man that we came across to first. But because he was disabled, we were worried that the other guys might take it from him and use it for their own personal gain. And if they were to take it and use it for themselves, they would probably just waste it all on cigarettes, a lighter, or more alcohol. So it was a shame there was not much more we can do. And we thought about reaching out to the Clifford Rescue Mission, but there's only so much they can do, because they provide, aside from like food and shelter, they provide temporary shelter.
But that's the key word, temporary.
Yeah, this is temporary shelter over there. So so aside from that, there's only like maybe 1 or 2 from what one of the other members told us, that there's only like 1 or 2 homeless shelters that local churches provide. So, and then the part of town that we were in, there's no homeless shelter there. So there's definitely not much we can do for them in that area. So it's just something that was kind of on my mind, the situation they were in regards to like location and, their mindsets, where they're probably past that point of like trying to fix or repair themselves. They're just thinking about where they're going to get. They're just thinking about. They're not even thinking about how to go about day by day. They're just people's going with the flow.
They really only got to take it day by day.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was just something that was on my mind. I've been thinking about that too for the past almost week now.
Yeah. Woof.
Bro, honestly, when I see situations like that, it just honestly reminds me of how broken, like, the system we live in now is. Ain't no reason why he should be out there sick like that. Period. I don't care what nobody say. You can make the excuses, oh well, he needs to get insurance, he needs to make money and stuff like that, but we gonna leave those where they at just as they are. They're excuses. Ain't no reason why a hospital should be turning people away who are sick like that when the purpose of a hospital is to heal people. Ain't no purpose for that. Honestly, being in that neighborhood, ain't no reason for all them houses to be foreclosed around that area. But I think we can all take a guess why they're foreclosing that area to push people out and make space for some more stuff that honestly people don't need and will probably feed into, their selfish, evil desires or whatever. I'm sure people are going to sit here and, you brought up the whole alcohol and cigarettes and stuff like that. I'm sure there are people who are going to view this podcast and be like, well, instead of putting their money towards liquor and cigarettes, they can put it towards this. Okay. Here's a problem. This is why I have a problem with that statement so much. One, it goes back to what you said. Alcohol, tobacco, drugs, aside from stimulating pleasure in us, it also acts as a deterrent so you don't have to deal with the reality of what you're facing right now.
Or the pain.
Or the pain of what you're facing right now. Yeah. So, again, why are we bringing that up? Like, why are we bringing up the fact that, oh, well, he should be putting his money towards something substantial instead of, liquor, cigarettes, and stuff like that. As if the person who made that comment haven't been indulging in that same thing.
I think one thing people forget is that when they come to, when they say things like that about the homeless or those who can't really fend for themselves as we can, they put them in our situation instead of us putting ourselves in their situation.
Yeah, bro, it's really like, see, we're gonna have a very good topic for y'all next week. We're gonna have a guest. His name Connor. He gonna talk to y'all about some stuff. But I was shout out to Connor. But I was reading his final college project that he had to do in order to graduate. And one thing that he brought up in that final project, and I know you read it, so you've probably seen it. I don't know if you read it yet.
I have not yet.
Yeah, but one thing that he talked about was how individualism kind of runs the world nowadays. And accurate. When it comes to situations like these, people automatically think of themselves instead of thinking about the shoes that the other person are in. They automatically think, I wouldn't do this, so ain't no reason why that person should do it. When in reality, there are two problems with that situation. One, you probably do the same things that they're doing, you just not grown enough to have that self-accountability yet. And two, everybody is different.
Yeah.
what you are going through is going to be vastly different from what somebody else is going through. But at the end of the day, that don't make them wrong for what they're going through, and it don't make you right because you not going through it.
Y'all know he's a Christian apologist named Ravi Zacharias. Y'all ever heard of him? He's well known. He goes around, theology and religion is his study. That's his trade. That's his practice. But he goes around speaking at different forums, just on different topics that people ask him. And oftentimes these forums, people will be able to just come up and ask him. We have some kind of speaker, and some people will be able to ask whoever's on stage whatever question they want to. But he pointed out how he likes to go about answering the questions, and I love that how he goes about it, because what he quoted is that instead of answering the question that they asked, he will answer them. And what he means by that is, say Trevon, say you asked me a question. If I were, in this case, say I'm Ravi, I wouldn't answer your question. I would answer you. Because there's a reason you're asking that question. There's a reason you felt compelled to ask that question. And there's a reason that question's been on your mind. So I'm going to answer you, and not the question you asked. Does that make sense? That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like when a person asks a question, and I know like we've been in this situation numerous times. Somebody will ask you a question, and then in the back of your mind you sitting there like, no, there's something more to that.
There's something more to that.
So like so at that point, we all three of us are guilty of doing this to somebody, but someone will ask us a question and we'll kind of sit there and think for a minute, because that question might have came out of so left field.
Yeah.
So like we'll sit there for a second and we might answer the question, but then we'll start asking, like we'll start having a discussion with them on why they asked that question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, is that same principle?
Yeah.
That applies to. Oh, that's my theme song. Why you cut it off? But that same principle though applies to the idea of individualism. If we are just sincerely going to quote unquote care for those who don't have anything, then we can't look at them through the lens of, oh well, I'm gonna address your immediate need, or oh, I'm gonna put you in my shoes and say, oh well, if you do this with your money, or do X, Y, and Z, don't go spending on this. Like, okay, you try telling them that, because one, they likely don't got the money. that's the first problem. If they had the money, do you think they'd be where they are? But two, for what they're going through, I can't say that I blame them. But there are times where I've driven. I'm sure we've all guilty. When we see those people on the side of the street, with a sign saying, "Hey, a little meal bug here helps. Can you give us some money?" And my mindset with that, it shifted a little bit. But at least early on, it's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna give you money because you're gonna spend it on stuff you don't need to be spending it on." But then later, it's like, okay, well, who am I to say what you spend your money on? Because you're gonna get for you what you feel you need to get. If it just so happens, that you go buy liquor and alcohol, that's what you do. My aim is to give, and to give without expecting anything back.
Right.
But under that same logic, though, if they're gonna go and buy what they want to buy, if that little bit gives them solace, at least for a moment, they'll appreciate it. And you've done your job of giving.
Respect.
So, like, I hear you hear these situations. Going back to what you're saying, like you hear these situations, people like saying the excuses, when in reality, what we need to realize is like, yeah, unfortunately, because we're human, we ain't gonna eliminate the poor. The poor will always be with us. But under that same mindset, the poor always gonna be with us. Is always on us to take care of them.
Exactly. I was like, it kind of goes back to like, oh, you mad that poor people are always around you? Do something about it. You got the resources to do something about it. Then, it kind of goes back to you have all these billionaires who will just straight up like come into like a low class neighborhood and push people out and whatnot, and he doesn't understand why people are so mad about it. It was like, bro, you literally just displaced them out of their homes, and you didn't offer up no type of like security.
You just moved them.
You just pretty much said move and whatnot, and that situation is just another reminder of why I study what I study. Because, people think politics is a game. It is not a game. Like, these are people's actual, like, lives. And I want to be part of the group that decides to do the right thing. So, with that situation, it just reminded me of how so much of the system that we live in that we have to fix. It kind of goes back to like this picture right here on the board, like everybody hand in hand and stuff like that. I don't see this picture personified. I mean, outside of certain situations, I don't see it personified on like a world view or like a global view, I would say. Only in certain situations, we may be at church, we'll get each other holding hands, we'll have that at church. We might have it on campus, like in the BCC, because that's how we are, like we're a community up there. But why isn't this a global thing though?
It goes back.
I don't know. This just makes me think about one of Diana Ross's songs from back in the day called "Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand."
Reach out into
Yeah.
My God. All right.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's that song. And one of the lyrics says, I still remember. It's funny because I only remember the song because of the miniseries, the Jacksons and American Dream, and they showed that clip of where still funny to this day when the Jackson 5, like Michael Jackson, he was still a boy and like he was still young, and Diana Ross invited him up on stage to sing with her. That was a big mistake, because when Michael Jackson takes that microphone to sing, he ain't giving it back to anybody, not even Diana Ross. So and his mama said that too. He said that to everybody at the table. They were sitting at, she should have known better than to give that microphone to Michael, because she ain't gonna get it back. And she was right. She struggled to get that mic back. But the song, when one of the lyrics that is stated in the song was, if you see an old friend on the street and he's down, remember that his shoes can fit your feet. That's true. Like I remember what Dr. Owens was saying. One paycheck, 1 or 2 paychecks can cause you to end up in that same slump. It could be a car accident. It could be a loss of a job. It could be loss of a family member that supported you. Anything can happen to you anytime, anywhere, to where you end up in that same situation we found those gentlemen in last week. So I just think about that one. I just think about that one lyric. Remember, his shoes can fit your feet. It can fit your feet tomorrow if it happens.
Facts. I know. I keep going back to the spiritual idea, but part of it. I've been watching this little series lately, y'all. It's a channel on YouTube. I know the Common Bible app for most phones partners with them a lot. But there's a group called the Bible Project, and they do these animated series just on topics, themes, scripture, whatnot, and they make it a little bit more understandable based off their research. They've been doing this series on the spiritual side of things as it contrasts with the physical. And going through and you look at the the verses they put with it, or you look at the passages they pair with it, or the thematics they pair with it, and there's always that dividing force that's behind, seeking to destroy what unifies, which is love. And you're right, I don't see this much anymore. I see it in small doses, whether it be from family, parents, another example, both of y'all become like family to me. So, or, mentors, people who are like looking after me, looking after those around me, looking after even those I don't know, but those little pockets of love is what I'm pointing out, and that's when I see this. But on a big scale, I don't. I wish I did.
And the crazy thing about it is, it needs to be on a big scale.
It does.
Because, like, honestly, if it was on the bigger scale, it would create the biggest change.
I agree.
Like, it's like I always tell people, I'm like, if you want me to be real, if all the millionaires and billionaires came together in the world right now, and I think Dr. Rob had said this to us, like, after that situation, and he's right about that because I looked that up before, and it's actually pretty true. If all the millionaires and billionaires came together, they could eliminate world poverty and still be millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I've noticed over time is that, like, if especially when it comes to this, right, or even all the stuff we talked about tonight, there's so many people who will put themselves over doing the right thing all for the sake of maintaining what they have. But what the crazy reality is, by giving of yourself without requiring anything back, that's the kicker. By just giving, or that could be in service, that could be finances, that could be food, you name it. But by giving without expecting anything back, what that does in turn is that now you've given, but 2, you will be able to give more. That's the catch-22 that people don't see, is that, oh, if I give, I'm not going to have. Well, screw what you don't have. Give to give, and you will always have to give.
First of all,
that's really what it was.
Yeah, right. Like, first of all, if people really sit there and be like, "Oh, if I give him my stuff, I won't have anything," you capping. Sorry, you capping. Sorry. Hey, nothing else to tell you on that situation.
The lawyer in the Central Park 5, she put her career over doing the right thing. Oh, it's politics. Okay.
It's a game of survival.
It's a game of survival. Well, answer me this then. If it's truly a game of survival, by doing the right thing, would you not increase your odds of survival? And especially in a case like this, because the way I see it is, if if she actually advocated for these 5 boys and whatnot, for a moment, yeah, it may seem bleak because she's the prosecutor. She's putting her career literally on the line. If she fails this case, yeah, for a lot of people, that's out the door. But on the same hinge though, if you advocate for them and you say, no, I'm not doing this, someone's gonna notice, why didn't you do that? It wasn't the right thing. They had me prosecuting innocent. By that simply being there, see, that's going on the good side spiritual thing. That's so there's something my dad told me a while back, but this is something I've seen too. By doing things like that, by just taking that right step, trusting God, and just going, He'll take care of you. He'll set you up.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of In the Rough is in the books. As always, if you have questions, comments, concerns about some of the topics that we talk about, you have some of y'all have some of my personal information, social media, phone number, stuff like that. Same thing goes for Trevon and Omari. But if you wish to be on the professional side, we do have a beautiful email right here at the bottom, intheroughstudios@gmail.com. So if you would like to contact us about some suggestions, concerns, or possibly some topics you want to hear us discuss, make sure you get in touch with us.
And there's also another beautiful place where you can do that very same thing, the comment section below. So if you got any comments, questions, concerns, go ahead and post a comment. We'll take a look at it, respond to it if we can, or include that topic in the next episode. So there's also that one other little thing. It's off in the little corner. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
The bell.
So go ahead and press that bell, subscribe. And now we're getting news updates, or anytime we upload a new video to the channel, that goes straight to you. So without further ado, gentlemen,
Till next time.
this has been In the Rough. Your co-host, Omari the Smith.
Trevon Covington.
They call me Wolfgang. And thank you for paying attention to In the Rough. And we wish all you guys a blessed rest of your day.
Have a good one.